Hi everybody, welcome to the 6th episode of the Name Sisters. Can you believe that we've done 6 episodes already? It's been such a blast. I'm Alexia May, and today we have Amelia with us, and Rebe, and Ren, and Megan, and I'm just so excited today because we have a very special guest. We'll get to that later. But I'm very excited about this episode because we're going to be talking about novel names from novels, fictional characters with awesome names that are our favorite, and really showcasing how important a name is to a character. You don't really think about that all the time, maybe, but as a writer, and Amelia's writer, and some of the other Name Sisters have done some writing, names really are more important. And if you're a writer, I don't know about you, but I've probably spent more time on baby name websites looking for names for my characters than I have my actual child, because it's so fun to find the perfect name for your character. And so today we're just going to be talking about that and hopefully encourage you if you're maybe a writer with writer's block, or if you're thinking about writing, or if you're a writer, definitely leave your feedback in the comments or email us. We're so excited to talk about this show because we've never really done something like this before, so we're very excited. So we each today have a character with a name that we're each going to talk about why we like it. And so, but first off, I would like to show you our special guest, and it is dun dun dun, Miss Rowan Avery. Is she not the cutest little future namer ever? The new generation. Ah, she's so beautiful.
Thank you.
And the exciting thing is that Elena also has a new little baby, but unfortunately she couldn't be with us tonight. She'll be remote like Rebe was last time. And her little baby is so cute, and we're so excited for Rebe and Elena, for our future name nerds.
Name sisters.
Yeah, Name Sisters, the next generation. So, to kickstart off our show, we are going to go with the special guest's mother.
Okay, so today I get to talk to you guys about my all-time favorite character, Sherlock Holmes. Sherlock Holmes is a household name. Pretty much everyone knows Sherlock, or at least knows his name. But for those of you who don't know who Sherlock is, he's a detective character who was written by Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. Sherlock was featured in 4 novels and 56 different short stories, which were released around 1887 to 1927. These books were incredibly popular in their time and are still loved by so many people today. When most people think of Sherlock, they think of the deerstalker cap-wearing, pipe-smoking detective, but there are so many different adaptations, some of which you probably didn't even realize were connected, like the television show House MD. Sherlock is so familiar that some people don't even realize that he wasn't a real person. So what makes Sherlock Holmes such a special and inspiring character? In my opinion, it's a variety of different things. He is an incredibly brilliant man who has amazing deductive abilities. He is able to observe the smallest detail and come to a conclusion that will help him easily solve a murder mystery. But it's not just his skills that make him so unique, it's his personality too. He is arrogant, he is narcissistic, he's quick-witted, and he's eccentric. His flat is a mess. He often doesn't speak to people for days. He stays up all night playing the violin to help himself think, and he cares more about solving the crime than the actual victims of the crimes themselves. He has very few friends, but his doctor, roommate, and companion, John Watson, is able to appreciate Sherlock's brilliance and individuality. Most of the Sherlock stories were actually written by John Watson, well, in his blog, or like they were written by him about Sherlock and their adventures together. So he was very fond of Sherlock, obviously. And lastly, what makes Sherlock Holmes so special, I think, is his name. There's no denying that Sherlock is a very unique name. And a powerful character deserves a powerful name, and anything less would have not done him justice at all. I don't really think that Sherlock is usable this day and age because it's so associated with Sherlock himself that it would just like take a very brave person to use that name. And to me, that's just further proof that he's such a memorable character because he basically has an entire name to himself, kind of like Oprah or Elvis. So yeah, if you haven't read or watched anything to do with Sherlock, you definitely should because you will realize how many things are inspired, and yeah, there's just so many things that have taken from Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's work. Yeah.
And I was saying to Rebe today that Sherlock has also become a term like layman. I mean, layman was a person. You say layman's terms. You used to call somebody a Sherlock. You're calling them a know-it-all.
Yeah.
There's also another term, no bleep Sherlock.
Yeah.
He has become a household, not only a household name, but really a household word.
Yeah. It's a really good one.
Ren, you got a cool character.
Yes, the character I'm talking about today is Atlas, and this book is definitely less popular than Sherlock Holmes. The book is The Atlas of Love by Laurie Frankel. And just a background about the book, one college-age girl becomes pregnant towards the end of her college career, and her two best friends decide that they're going to raise this baby together as their own little family. They go out and buy a big house with a dog, and they all take turns staying up at night with the baby. Who's going to watch them while someone's working or in class? And the thing about this, the name about this character is all three of the moms are English majors, and they love books, so that's how they came up with the baby's name. They said, well, we love books, so we'll pick Atlas. And the reason why I like this book so much is it kind of shows how a family doesn't need to be a mother and a father to be normal. They kind of normalize, not so much normalize, but they kind of bring to light that there are so many different types of families out there, and that sometimes your friends are more family than your actual family is. I like that they used the name Atlas, one, because they love books, so that was nice, and atlases are books full of maps of the world, and for me, it's kind of like they're giving this little baby, like, he can conquer the world, he can take on the world with his name. And Atlas is actually a Greek god who was believed to have the world on his shoulders, and he was believed to be very strong, which makes people think that the name Atlas has has great strength to it. And in Greek, it means to carry. So I like that much to it. And I just thought it was a cool name. It's definitely not a super popular name, but I can see it rising in popularity because a lot of people do like Greek names and Greek god or goddesses names. They're very grand, and I have been seeing them used a lot lately. And the author definitely went and took the ties from the character. She tied this little baby to the mom and to what the parents do, and kind of throughout the book, they're always talking about literature, and they're always talking about writing, so that was a nice way to like tie in this little baby to these big, grand adults.
Yeah. It seems very real.
Yeah, Atlas is rising in popularity, actually. It just appeared on the top 1,000 names in the U.S. in 2013 for the first time. at least in a very long time, and I just looked it up, and it's number 789 right now. So
it sounds very current, on trend. People are loving word names.
Definitely.
And it's also a god, like the name of a Greek god, like Ren said. So that's another connection. That's pretty cool.
I love the name Atlas so much. It's awesome.
So do I.
To me, it's such a cool old name. It's almost like a smush between Alex and Titus, which are both names that a lot of people like. But so, Amelia, our novel writer.
Okay, so the book I'm going to be talking about is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov, which Vladimir Nabokov by itself is a very, very interesting name. Nabokov was a Russian writer who wrote in English. It's not a translation from Russian, and for that reason, I think he looked at the English language in a very different way, and he had the most beautiful prose. So Lolita is kind of a it's not exactly the most nice story. It's a little bit controversial, more than a little bit controversial, and it was definitely controversial when it came out in the 1950s. But this book is amazing in terms of what it does with names. The main female character is Dolores Hayes, who is referred to as Lolita by her stepfather, who's the narrator. And I'm just going to read one paragraph from the first chapter that I just think is amazing and kind of sums up the character of Lolita and how Nabokov used the name Dolores and the nickname Lolita. She was low, playing low in the morning, standing 4 feet 10 in one sock. She was Lola in slacks. She was Dolly at school. She was Dolores on the dotted line, but in my arms she was always Lolita. So Dolores is the perfect choice for the name of this character. Nabokov chose a name that kept within the trends of the day. Dolores was number 26 the year that Dolores Hayes was born. And in Spanish, Dolores means sorrows, which is fitting because, I mean, this character does not have a very happy life. But what I find most amazing is about this name choice is is the way Dolores transforms into Lolita through the name. This character as Dolores or Lo or Lola or Dolly is just a regular girl, but when she is referred to as Lolita, she becomes the narrator's fantasy and an extremely different person. And it just demonstrates the power a name can have on a character, from her going to Dolores or Dolly or Lola and being this regular girl, and then using the name Lolita to change her completely. And I actually think Dolores is a really beautiful and usable name, but I definitely would not recommend using Lolita as the name now because this novel is so popular. And there's a really kind of funny quote from Nabokov himself, where he said, "I am probably responsible for the odd fact that people don't seem to name their daughters Lolita anymore. I have heard of young female poodles being given this name since 1956, but no human beings." So I thought that was kind of funny. So that's a little bit about Lolita and the name Lolita and Dolores.
Yeah, it's so amazing. Like, names really do have so many sides. I think that's why you could have a name like Elizabeth that has like 3 million different variations and nicknames, because one name has so many different sides. Like, having a little daughter and naming her Elizabeth, but calling her Eliza like means something, or calling her Beth means something, or calling her Lizzie or Lizette or Ellie. Like, there are so many different facets to name. And I was so excited about Amelia featuring Dolores and Lolita because it like really showcases how a name is more than just letters. It really is. A name can be a lot like a person. There can be many different sides.
It completely changes the image from going from straight-laced Dolores to this completely fantastical Lolita. That's kind of how I see it anyways.
Yeah, and you can see that way too with like celebrities, where a lot of times they'll have like a stage name that makes them something, but that's not really the name that they were born with. Like John Wayne, like he was born Marion, and Marion you don't really see out shooting them up in the desert out west, but John Wayne you could. So it's just really neat what kind of a picture just a name can paint. Kind of amazing, actually. Megan.
Okay, so this was hard for me because I love so many literary names, and I talk about them a lot, like on my channel and blogs, but I had to go with an old favorite, and that's Atticus Finch from To Kill a Mockingbird, which I know a lot of people had to read in school. It's a Pulitzer Prize-winning book by Harper Lee, great name as well, the author. There are so many juicy little names in this novel. Atticus is a lawyer in Alabama during the Depression era, and he's defending a black man that has been wrongfully convicted, so it is a heavy topic. And one quote that I like from him in this novel that I think just kind of gives insight to the character is, "You never understand a person until you consider things from his point of view, until you climb into his skin and walk around in it." I just love this man so much. He is so humble. He has such a heart for social justice, which is something I'm passionate about. And he has just a really strong moral compass. He's the kind of person that I would aspire to be, and furthermore that I really would want a future son or daughter to be like. He's one of those characters at the end of the book that you feel like just a little sense of sadness almost, or I do, because I desperately wish that he was not a fictional character. I feel like the world really needs more people like Atticus Finch in it. And there's a film version of this book too. I know lots of people have strong opinions about movies being made after books. The movie I think is pretty good. It's only one half of the book, though I don't know that everybody's aware of that. And Gregory Peck plays Atticus, and I think he's really well cast. But in the film adaptation, there's this one scene that like gives me goosebumps every time, where Atticus is leaving the courtroom, and the black people in the court up in the balcony stand out of respect for him leaving, and he is so humble that he doesn't even realize that they are doing this for him as a sign of respect, because he's just the kind of man or character. See, I'm saying man because I want him to be a real person. He's just the kind of character that does the right thing because it is the right thing to do. He expects no recognition, and that's why I fell in love with this character. So many literary names, names that I love, come from stories I read a lot from my childhood. I've been really nostalgic lately. Usually I like a name, I read a book, and then I love the name. Atticus is kind of reverse for me, where it's not a name I would typically be drawn to, but because of the character, it makes me really love the name. It's a great namesake, like I said. He has so many strong attributes. Atticus is a Latin name, meaning from Attica. It's currently number 404 for boys in popularity here in the United States. Many celebrities are using this one for their little ones. Daniel Baldwin, Casey Affleck, just to name a few. I think Atticus, just the sound of it, has a really strong, striking, memorable sound to it, very masculine kind of energy. And I really love his last name, Finch. I think I'd be more likely to use that. Finch is such a cute little bird name. I love a lot of Finn names, and I think you can use Finch to get to Finn, and that would be kind of a neat way to do it. So, yeah, I could go on and on about this character, obviously, but I do adore this name and character.
I never thought of Finn as a nickname for Finch. That's actually really cute.
Yeah.
It is. Well, I think another cool subtle tie that I just realized while Megan was talking is that, I mean, it's called To Kill a Mockingbird, so it has a bird theme. And it can't be a coincidence that all their last name is Finch. Like, they are themselves these little songbirds in this great big world that, I don't know. I think you know what I'm trying to say. I think that's really cool. But Megan, didn't I also hear that Atticus might mean father-like? Did I hear that somewhere?
You're right. Mm-hmm.
Which would make sense that Atticus is the father figure. And
right. And
Atticus is, yeah.
She modeled some of him after her father too, so that meaning is like perfect as well.
Yeah.
Megan and I were talking the other day about men that we would marry from literature, and I said I would marry Atticus Finch.
Totally.
Who'd you pick, Megan?
Because he seems so real.
Yeah, he really does.
I just like how, like Megan said, he's a very, very strong and influential character, so it would be a great tie to name your son that. He would be like named after someone, he's not a person, but a character who just does good in the world, and that'd be nice to have someone named after.
I haven't read this book before. They didn't make us read it. But I do think Atticus Finch is a really cool name.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think that's one of the beauties of Atticus Finch is, we hear of Pocahontas as John Smith, but there are like 3,100 million John Smiths in the world, but there's only one Atticus Finch. Like, his name was made to be a statement, almost. Like Sherlock was made to be a statement, I think Atticus Finch was made to be a statement. Because you say Atticus or Atticus Finch, people just know where he's from. You say John Smith, it may take them a few minutes to think of Pocahontas. You know what I mean?
Well, exactly, because I haven't read the book, and I know who he is.
I was just going to say that.
Yeah. So I'm excited to really talk about my character too, and I was so glad that Megan said she was going to do Atticus Finch, because I'm going to do Eugenia Phelan from The Help. And yes, there is a tie-in, which I had this epiphany about, which I'm so excited to share. The girls have already had to endure my explanation of it. But I grew up reading To Kill a Mockingbird and with Scout, and Scout actually, it took place in the 1930s, and Scout had a maid who was like her mother figure, and her name was Calpurnia, and Scout had a brother. And if you remember, Scout's actual name is Jean Louise Finch, and she absolutely hates her name, which is why she likes being called Scout. And when I first picked up The Help a couple of months ago, I'd never read it, and I vaguely knew what it was about. I knew it was kind of a touchy subject. And I read it, and it didn't take me long that I started to really feel like I knew Skeeter. Skeeter Phelan is the main character in the book. And I just felt like I knew her. And I began to realize that there is a lot of similarities between Skeeter and Scout. Skeeter's name is Eugenia Phelan. That sounds like a lot like Jean Louise Finch. And Skeeter goes by Skeeter, Scout goes by Scout. They're both held in the South. But The Help takes place 30 years after Scout was a young girl, so it seems like Skeeter could technically be an older Scout. And to make more of the tie, Skeeter has a maid that she is very close to. That's a mother figure, and her name is Constantine. So you have Calpurnia and Constantine, Skeeter and Scout. And I thought, holy crow, that's amazing. From a writer's standpoint, Amelia had used the word subconscious, and that is so right on, because I subconsciously correlated Skeeter with Scout, which made me trust her more and feel like I already knew her, because in a lot of ways I did. I think it's so amazing what Catherine Stockett did with The Help, because she fastened Eugenia's name a lot like Scout's name, Jean Louise, and a lot of her story to help tie in that subconscious familiarity, which I think is why I think that probably helped the book a lot more, because in a lot of ways it wasn't a new topic. It had really already been done before, and it was really almost like a part 2. Like, this is our generation's To Kill a Mockingbird. So I got so excited about that, because I'm like, oh my goodness, it was just her name and her maid's name that subconsciously tied me back to Kill a Mockingbird. So it was just like Skeeter was already like my friend. And I was just so jazzed about that, because it was just such a great tie-in to a name. And I wanted to just read a quote that Skeeter says in the book, and I think you could tie names into this. She said, "Sure, I dreamed of having football dates, but my real dream was that one day I would write something that people would actually read." A quote from a fictional character that is real and applies. And I think a big tie-in with character development is their name. Having a name that's appropriate to the times, appropriate to the person. I mean, if Skeeter Phelan's name was Thomasina, I really don't know that she would have been as relatable. I think it was absolutely ingenious that she was modeled after a classic character. So that was my epiphany that I was so excited about, and as a writer, I'm totally going to write that down, because I just think that is so unbelievably brilliant.
I actually did that unconsciously when I'm currently writing a novel, and one of my main characters, one of the reasons I chose to talk about Lolita is because one of my main characters is a 16, 17-year-old girl named Julia, and she is in love with, having an affair with, a guy who's an older man, not an older man, but he's older than her. And I had named her Julia Hayes, spelled Hayes. And then I started thinking to myself, I should really make a reference to Lolita with this character. I always loved the novel Lolita, and I was like, this would be a really great opportunity to tie in my love of this Nabokov novel with this character. And then I started thinking, wait, Dolores' last name is Hayes. So I had already done it subconsciously, and I realized that, and I was shocked, but at the same time, I realized that I had already given my character the right name, because I had subconsciously chosen Hayes, because I remembered that obviously when I was naming her, and it was the right name. So sometimes, I mean, as a writer, you do that and it just works.
That's awesome. I think that's so smart of writers too, like to know what came before you if you're doing the subject with any hints of anything. And too, I was thinking like character development is really interesting. Like if I asked all the Name Sisters right now, what would you name a young woman with long red hair that lives in the forest and can talk to animals? We'd all come up with different names that we think fit that image. And so sometimes a name really can help. I did some writing more like in college, like short stories and stuff, and I was like, no, this is not a Cassandra, or this is not a Myrtle, or whatever. But you find a name, and then you start kind of building on that, and I think that's a beautiful thing that you can do.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Reeve, did you say?
Yeah, what you guys were actually talking about reminded me when earlier I mentioned that House was related to Sherlock, and if you think about it, House is supposed to be based off Sherlock, and House's name is Gregory House. Well, Sherlock is Sherlock Holmes. House Holmes They're named after. Well, he's named after Sherlock, and House's best friend is James Wilson. The Sherlock's best friend is John Watson. So, yeah.
Yeah, that's so ingenious. I mean, guys, if that doesn't make you excited about names, I don't know what does. Seriously. That is so exciting.
I just realized that a lot of people who have name writers. I've actually been in a few name communities where most of them are writers who just are looking for names for their characters. So they go and they hunt down how do you think a person named Alice would look, and they ask you, and people always have a vision in their head of what these characters look like just based on their names.
Yeah.
That is so true. I think we all individually and then collectively get a lot of people looking for a baby name, but a lot of us came into the name community looking for character names. And I think, too, I think of, in reality, I'll probably only have a few children, so a couple of names that I can use, but there are so many names that I love, so many juicy names. And so writing really gives name lovers a wonderful venue to use names that maybe, for me, for example, there's names I love that I think are maybe too brave for me, or could clash with a surname, and so it gives you a different avenue to use some of those wonderful names.
So like I said in the beginning, I'm so jazzed, so tickled about this show. And the fellow writers out there, send a thumbs up or leave your feedback below so that we can stay in touch. And just to get to know our community better. We're so excited about all of you guys. And we just wanted to say, I don't know if you noticed, but most of us are wearing poppies today. And so we just wanted to say thank you so much for all the veterans out there and the people still serving in the military. I have family in the military. My grandpa was a veteran. And every Veterans Day, he would get in his army uniform and go down to the town square, not for himself, but for all of the people that never came home. And so I just really appreciate, as we all do, your service, and your name isn't forgotten. So thank you so much, and we'll see you for episode 7.